The air inside the village hall was smelling nice and clean, with a whiff of vim and harpic and a tinge of windaloo. The floor was swept, the windows washed. It was looking nice and new, all ready for the pensioners and their annual Christmas do. The tables lined along the walls were formed into a square, and it must be said the look of it had a festive Yuletide air. There were angels, stars and cherubim pinned along the walls, and hanging decorations made of quilted toilet rolls. One by one they all arrived and settled in their place, making pleasant small talk as they waited to say grace. They talked about the weather and were desperate to hear about all the operations each had suffered since last year. The brownies bought them bowls of broth and fancy patterned plates, and they got stuck in with their pinkies out in a sophisticated way. But one old guy, who, I have to say, was terribly uncouth, quickly slipped his false teeth out and started slurping soup. Now, one old dear who had noticed this said, "In the name of God, will you take that spoon out of your face and put your teeth back in, you gob?" But the old guy just looked puzzled and said, "If there's one thing that I hate, it's bits of beef and lentil getting stuck beneath my plate." And a bald little guy sitting next to him with a fancy hearing aid said, "Is that moaning woman on the bloomin' moan again? She's always giving someone grief. She's probably right enough. Don't take any of her nonsense, man. Just tell her to shut up." Well, the woman's hubby took offence to this insulting slight, although he didn't disagree too much. Well, he knew what she was like, but he knew he must defend his wife against such common scum, so he threw a buttered bread roll at the guy with the shiny gums. His aim had never been too good, it really must be said, and the bread roll missed the gumsy guy and hit a granny's head instead. It went bouncing off her silver hair, and she shouted, "What the heck? If it wasn't for this catheter, I'd come and wring your neck." Well, one thing led to another, and before too very long, I suppose you'd have to say there was a riot going on. Brownies huddled in the corner, wondering how they would survive, when the whistles blew and the door flew in, because the police had arrived. The Chief Inspector shouted out, "All right then, that'll do. We've got better things to do than deal with the likes of you. I'm going to take you down the station, and I'm going to lock you up if you post-menopausal yobbos do not sit down and shut up." "Oh, get it up here," one small woman shouted from the back. "We'll not have some young whippersnapper talk to us like that." The Chief Inspector huffed and puffed and said, "Ain't that just fine? One more word and I'll shove this button where the sun will never shine." Well, that just kicked it off again, worse than it was before. Granny swinging from the wall bars, police squirming on the floor. But one by one the police dragged them out into the night, and the brownies looked around them at the remnants of the fight. There were broken cups and saucers lying all around the floor, Zimmer frames and walking sticks and hearing aids galore, false teeth by the dozen and a glass eye by the door, and someone's blood and guts festoon the walls at the Christmas do for pensioners in the local village hall. Well, things have calmed down again, they're all friends now, one and all, and they've pretty much forgotten about that rumpus in the hall. But one thing they still talk about, that to this day still makes them wince, is that the Chief Inspector's truncheon has not been seen since.